Yeah, we didn't focus much on Maine. I probably showed the least amount of tape that we've shown on our opponent this year on Maine. It was much more about us and how we wanted to be, and I think we're going to take that approach a lot more, moving forward with this group.
Now the NPI is so volatile. You go from I think 19 a week ago, and now you're 13. And it's just it seems more volatile than the former system. But I don't know. Is it that different mathematically?
Well, I think one of the biggest differences, I think, is the number of teams that you get bonus points for. So, and we've noticed that you get bonus points for overtime losses also. So I don't know if that's a change or not, but if you lose in overtime, you're still getting a bonus point. But it used to be the top 10 or either 15 or 20 teams were the only teams you would get an extra bonus for, meaning like you beat a quality opponent bonus. Now it's top 30. And that brings I think that brings in a lot of other leagues into play. So the other thing with the MPI is much more about your strength of schedule. When St. Thomas wins, that helps us because they move up, then we move up. At the end of the day, you got to win your games, and that's what we got to be focused on. But I think a lot of people have a lot of other coaches I've spoken to have kind of also talked about the volatility of the MPI, how we go from 11 to 19 back to 13. At the end of the day, win your games and you put yourself in the best spot.
The goalie situation here, you haven't even seen the new kid on the ice yet, I don't think. But you're going to wait for to see how the week of practice plays out, or do you already have pretty much?
I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan. Jack obviously put together a good weekend. Just like our team, he's got to take that swagger, but he worked his butt off last week. So he's got to come in with the exact same focus. This week. Michael is obviously new. He's out there with Joe today. Getting some reps and play it by ear. We got a big, obviously a big series this week.
Now it's a crazy time in college hockey when you can go out and get another player from a professional league. At what point did you go to work on that, like late last Saturday night a week ago when Philip it was apparent?
Well, no, not then, but when after his MRI results.
Yeah.
We started to make calls, before the MRI, before we got the results of the MRI, just to kind of get like, hey, this might, we might be looking for a guy, And I'll tell you the same thing I told the team. I'll be long-winded here, but I'll tell you the same thing I told the team. It's an NCAA. If you don't have two goalies in a game, you forfeit. So right now we have two goalies. So if either Aaron or John or Jack went down, we would have to forfeit, or we'd have to dress another guy. My two options are take a guy on campus that plays on the club team.
Yeah.
Or grab a guy during the semester. I've taken a guy from the club team before, and two things. One thing, he's with you for 6 weeks, and then he ruins all of his eligibility for a club. He can't go back.
Yeah.
So is that fair to the kid? Like, even though I did that in the past and the kid said he wanted to do it, I didn't feel right about it afterwards, and that feeling's kind of always stuck with me, is that, I don't, even though he wanted to do it, I just didn't think that's not the route I wanted to go. The second part of that is, is a guy on your club team, is it going to be as committed as your guys? You know, like I've had some club goalies come in and be like, oh, wow, this is way more intense than I thought it was going to be, you know? So you're always questioning that. And with the short window, it just, we decided, no, let's go recruit a guy. Now, your options recruiting a guy, most guys in junior hockey didn't. You know, we approached some of that, and guys didn't want to leave their teams, and for good reason. And, you know, like I'm not going to push a guy ever to leave their team in junior hockey. Just, you know, they're in the middle of something, you know. So, and, you know, the other option was, you know, the East Coast League. And, you know, we're learning. I mean, we did a call about 2 months ago, and the NCAA was, you know, all the Division I coaches and the NCAA was on there, and they walked through their reasoning. You know, they basically look at salary paid and cost of living in that city. Is that more than what is, you know, necessary, you know, to basically live, and compared to what kids are getting in college? And if you look at it that way, you know, I think I understand why the NCAA is calling some of these, you know, some of these guys, you know, amateurs, or they're allowing them to compete. It's maybe not the rule that I would agree with, but those are the rules. And, you know, like we all have to evolve with the rules. And, you know, yeah, so maybe it's not the rule that I would have chosen at the beginning of the year or chosen, like, but at the end of the day, like, these are the rules. And, you know, like, we're going to follow the rules. You know, I'm not making the rules right now. Nate Leaman is not, Providence College is not, you know, but, you know, like, we're going to take advantage of any rules that are out there. So, just like other teams are taking advantage of grabbing guys mid-season, you know, like things, you know, coaches are evolving. They're holding scholarships, you know, they're making sure that, you know, like, all right, you know, we're only going to take 25. I'm going to give myself some flexibility in case a forward gets hurt or a D gets hurt or, God forbid, a goalie gets hurt. So I just think it's, you know, I think it's the evolution of college athletics as much as, you know, as much as it is like really changing. So
now, if Philip had gotten hurt, you know, say a week, 2 weeks later than he did get hurt, you wouldn't be able to do anything, right?
No.
Because classes would start.
Yeah,
you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we actually looked at like Michigan, you know, because Michigan just had the same thing happen. Injury looks very similar, like things like that. You know, I think their classes have started. So, you know, like timing, again, we had like a 4-day window. So it's like, boom, you know, like you're moving and you're going, you know. So, and I mean, you know, like Michael's been, we threw a lot out of him in 2 days here, and you know, coming in with us, he's been awesome. I've seen him walk around campus twice. He's smiling. He knew a lot of the guys on our team. You know, obviously played with Donovan. I won a championship with Donovan. So, you know, you know, some things fell together for us also. You know, like so that was good.
Now he had to, if I understand right, he had to go home to Canada and then come back.
Well, for his visa, for his F1 visa. Yes, he had to. We had to. You know, he drove from Savannah to LaGuardia, flew from LaGuardia to Montreal. You know, crossed the border. You know, or went through customs at the airport, flew back to LaGuardia. You know, and then drove up. He got here Saturday at like 9:30 at night, like after our game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, timing's everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of work going on last week, and a lot of work, you know, even this week, just making sure he's enrolled in all of his classes. You know, he had to get a lot of his paperwork, his physical, everything done yesterday, his heart test, his concussion, like everything, you know. So it's it's been a little bit of a whirlwind on that part, and as well as, you know, with how we did last, you know, like our practices and everything last week. So.
All right,